So we start. Okay. So it's a pleasure this evening to introduce you Ángela Paredes from the studio, the office Paredes Pedrosa Arquitectos, established in Madrid from 1990. And Ángela she belongs to this architect who are friends of the UAB. She teach many times in this school, in the Master of Architecture, but also many times in the WAVE workshop. The office Paredes Pedrosa is founded by Ángela and by Ignacio Pedrosa, and they are a couple in the life and in the work. They work a lot. They build a lot. They build a lot of huge and amazing buildings all around the world, from Africa to Europe, many in Madrid, in Spain, in the Iberian Peninsula. They were also curators of the Spanish pavilion in the 6th Biennale of Venice of Architecture, and they were invited to the International Pavilion of Venice Biennale 2018 with the exhibition The Dream of Space Produced Forms. Among the most important prize, they got the Spain Fine Arts Gold Medal in 2014. They were finalists in the Aga Khan Prize in 2016, and they were Gold Medal Sustainable Architecture 2012. So probably only just from these few words you can understand the importance of their work and the reason why I invited them in this November talks, in the last November talks, just to end this event, this initiative, with the voice, with this very specific voice from the Spain. But now I give the floor to Ángela to introduce their work. Do you need the light, or you prefer with?
Well, whatever is best for the image. So thank you. I don't know. Can you hear me? So well, thank you. Okay. So thank you very much, Fernanda, for your nice presentation and for this invitation to the November talks. And also thanks to Daniela Ruggeri also for all her work regarding this lecture. And well, I will talk in English. Sorry for not talking in Italian. It would be better, I think. And well, first of all, in your presentation, yes, we have built quite a lot in the past times when architects were meant to build new. But now I would say that we transform a lot. We rebuild a lot. So that's why I will talk in this lecture about heritage and performing heritage. Really, well, for me it's difficult to talk about heritage here in Venice and in Italy, and also with so many very relevant, important professors here that know quite a lot of heritage. But I would talk about our impressions of working with heritage. because when an architect is building with heritage, maybe it's like if we are interpreting or we are performing heritage. Really, we are transforming what already exists and giving a new life or a new reality to the fragments of the past. Maybe this is because we were educated to be modern architects when I studied last century in Madrid. I never thought I would deal with heritage because only historians or archaeologists worked with heritage and not modern architects. I was educated just to build new. But then life, well, life makes everything different day to day, and maybe now you will work, of course, with what already exists, or maybe in another different way, in the way we have built. But what it is very important is to have the tools to do architecture and to build in a different way every time. So that's why interpreting is something that is a strong idea that now we have in our work. In the same way that a musician sometimes makes an interpretation of a music that he hasn't composed, but he or she transforms and interprets an ancient music that comes with a new voice and comes in a new way to the actual times. So this is the main idea, to interpret and to reuse and to give a new voice to the fragments of the past. And now this is quite relevant in the way architects work now, because now it's quite difficult to build new, but we can find always a very interesting way of working with the fragments of the past. So this is an image of these marbles, the Torlonia marbles, that in an exhibition that we visited in Rome this year. And all the ideas in these marbles can be given also to architecture. In the way all these fragments, as you see, they can be composed in this way, or they can be composed in a different way, but it is a completely different way that the original sculpture gave at its time, or this for instance, this sculpture, when we read that it was composed by 100 of little elements, some old, some new, giving a new reality, so it was quite fascinating for us. We erased those lines, and then you can have a complete new but different sculpture with these pieces. It's just like composing, no, with the fragments of the past to give a new life, or even in this way. This marble also in the exhibition, well, really, we didn't go to see the marbles. We went to see the work by David Chipperfield, because he had made the exhibition and the refurbishment of the building for the exhibition. So that was the main idea. But when we arrived there, well, we looked at these elements, such as this column that is composed by elements from different times. It doesn't matter. And even some of the pieces are not really important. As the archaeologist told us, the piece of the column of the pedestal is not very important, but it is important for the whole of the sculpture. And really, it is like a new life. So this is the way that we worked in these works that I am going to explain. some different works, such as this small museum in Cuenca, with the fragments also of the past inside a Gothic church, or in a house we rebuilt in Toledo, or different works in the former building of the Bank of Spain in Madrid, or the two libraries that we have built recently, one in Ceuta, in the north of Africa, and another one in Cordoba that is just finished, but it's not open yet to the public. So this idea of the marbles of Torlonia is the same as I am trying to express now in these works. Well, when we arrived here to Cuenca, Cuenca is a tiny village quite near Madrid, but it's really beautiful because it's in a gorge of a river. And here we have this ancient convent with a church, a Gothic church, that was meant to host a contemporary art museum of a painter. That's Torner. Torner is a contemporary painter in Cuenca. And he's one of the founders of this very important museum in Cuenca, the Abstract Museum. It's one of the best abstract museums in the world, and one of the first museums. It was founded in the 60s with these very important artists, such as Eduardo Chillida, for instance, or Fernando Zobel. Was a group of artists in the 60s, very strong, and they founded this museum in Cuenca. No? I really love this image of the artists going into the contemporary museum with all the art and just through the streets, with no security, and in a very simple and direct way, in the way they also refurbished this building for the museum. But at this time, we were given this beautiful church. It was a Gothic church in very near the Abstract Museum, in which we needed to host, and we needed to place a contemporary artwork by Torner. At the time when we arrived to the Gothic church, it was transformed at that time in quite a horrible auditorium, you see, with these curtains and so on. And we also had the work to restore in the canonical, say, or in the real meaning of the word restore. We needed to restore all the copertura, all the roofs, and also to restore all the elements because it was in a very bad way. So this is something that is something material, to restore in the classical way an architect restored. So we drew also all the framework and all the carpentry of the church, and we made a complete restoration work for the church. But for us, it was most important the way we should place the modern museum inside. And we got through this very beautiful, of course, this very beautiful Antonello da Messina image of San Girolamo in il suo studio, no? In the way there is a different architecture inside a larger architecture that gives like a small scale inside the large scale of the church. And this is the way we worked in this museum. We placed inside the nave of the church these freestanding elements that are completely apart and are completely separated from the walls of the nave, of the Gothic nave. And in these elements, we inserted all the artwork. And it is important to say that it is not a temporary exhibition. It is a permanent exhibition, and previous to this installation, we did the complete restoration of the church. So in that case, the historians were very happy because we did a classical restoration, but apart, we built inside this very light architecture to insert all the artwork of painter Gustavo Torner, that was one of the founders of the Abstract Museum. So you see here in the plan of the church these elements that are completely apart from the plan of the church, and also in section. It's very important sections because we architects, we work with horizontal sections and with vertical sections. It is very important to see the height of the nave and the presence of that fantastic space of the church, of the Gothic church, and the really looks a tiny scale of the modules, of the wooden modules, but they are really very high. They are 4 meters high. And inside these modules, we placed all the elements, all the lighting elements, and also all the specific installations for the new museum. As you see, we didn't want to touch all the Gothic architecture of the museum. Everything is restored. It is not painted. It is just illuminated with a gold-like light that gives this gold-like aspect to the nave of the Gothic church. Also, the pavement is completely new, and under the pavement we have the climate and the heating of the church. It is very, very cold in Cuenca, even colder than here in Venice, no? So, so this is the aspect of the new museum, with all the light coming from the modules, the wooden modules that hold all the contemporary sculptures and the artwork. And also in some points we have like openings and viewpoints, such as this square window that looks towards a sculpture that is inside this Baroque chapel that's inside the church. So centuries ago, it was completely natural to have a Baroque chapel beside a Gothic church and beside an original, even earlier part of the church. And well, no one was very worried about that. So architecture of different times were set together side by side, and it didn't matter because everything was set in dialogue with what already existed before. So I think that that is the main idea, no, of this project, and not being worried about the presence of the past, but being always working in dialogue with what already exists, because it is a very good tool for architecture when you have architecture, a very relevant architecture besides you. So it really helps, no? In this case, for instance, in these two small houses in Oropesa, well, we didn't deal with great elements, architecture elements, only these arches. I will talk about the origin of these arches, but really we were working with a ruin that was meant to be transformed into 2 houses for a brother and sister. And this is the plan of Oropesa. Oropesa is very near Toledo in the central part of Spain. And the original arches, it is because a former count in the 15th century wanted to build like a footpath, an elevated footpath, to connect the castle with with the church in order not to touch the ground, but to go through the elevated path from the castle to the church, in the same way as this El Corredor Vasariano, no? In Florence, was something very similar. No, it was a corridor in order to that the Duke Cosme I Medici couldn't touch the ground when he was walking from one part of Venice to another part of Florence. Through this elevated pathway. So it is the same as these arches. It was an unfinished corridor that was meant to connect the castle to the church. So these elements really were interesting because of the duality of scale, because we have this very large public scale of the arches, and then the small scale of the windows of the houses that were in ruins. So this is the original plan of the houses. They were no good, really. They were just like a ruin. But their value is that they were placed underneath these very powerful arches that were the unfinished corridor. So we were meant to work with these ruins and to transform them into two very small houses. And from the outside, no one can perceive anything because all the works were done inside. Well, everything was cleaned up and was restored, and the arches. But from the outside, we could do nothing because they were with a strong protection from the heritage point of view. But from the inside, we could do quite a lot. But we couldn't transform all the walls because well, they were also protected. So in this case, the way we worked was a different way in which we worked in the Torner Museum in Cuenca. We worked really like surgeons, like doctors, with just one opening here and closing one wall there, and just cleaning up all the inside in a very subtle way. But really the idea of the project was to build two different naves and two complete naves, because as when you see, at first it was just like a mess of walls and ruins and so on. And well, we intended to transform those ruins into two naves, two very clear naves, one for each small house, with a large patio in between that could be shared by the brother and sister. So that was the main idea, no, of the project, no, to build up those naves with the original tiles. Here they were just cleaned up, but they were the old tiles that were set together after we worked in the inside with that patio that is shared with the two houses, and with the two very strong, powerful arches that set together the two naves, no? And that duality between the large scale of the arches of a public work and then the small scale of the houses. Here you can see how it works. The inside of the houses. No, it's quite simple. Now everything is finished, it looks quite simple, but at first, until we realized that we wanted to work in those two naves, it was a bit of a mess, because it was really something terrible. We said, oh gosh, why have we to do this very difficult work, because we didn't really know what to do. Well, but then, well, after studying, of course, all the historical elements and all the archaeological elements and all the story, really, the story was fantastic, because that Count of Oropesa was a king of Peru, also virrey of Peru, and with a magnificent story that gave us quite a lot of ideas. So at this part of the point, research is important. Research is important because it can give you stimulating ideas for working. No? So research, thinking in research as a tool, as a very useful tool for doing architecture, I would say that is very important, no? Because it is very stimulating for us architects, no? And also to draw lots of times, in this case, all the elevations, some windows should be kept, another ones we could just erase them, but using, of course, all the facade, because they were protected, no? So at the end, we decided to whitewash everything, no, to give light inside the patio, no. I was asked today about color. Of course, color is very important. If you see the previous images and these images with the patio that is bright, it's not white, it is sort of different types of white. No, it gives light and it gives really a new life to this patio that is shared by the two houses, but always with the two arches that are restored on top of it. And well, with this transformation, because at first in the image, this was an exterior ruin that was no good, and as you see in the right image, the image on the right, it is really the sitting room of the house, no? But really the walls are the same. They are just painted white, not really white, different kind of white, no? Or in this image also, the brick and the ancient walls come, the same materiality comes inside the homes, no? But in a different way. So it is completely transformed. That is what I was saying at first. The importance of transforming what already exists, of giving a new life, or giving this new interpretation, just like a musician. It's just a different interpretation of what already exists. And well, the new elements, such as the staircase, well, it's just a very light element in a complete different language that is just set inside the house, no? And always with those beautiful things that architecture gives us, such as this new view towards the church with a window that opens an outside space to another outside space, introducing the vision of the old church inside the patio of the house. So, continuing with these different ways of working with what already exists, this works in this building in Madrid. It is in the very center of Madrid. It's the central building for the Bank of Spain. We have had the opportunity of working inside this fantastic building in different ways. Transforming the interior spaces to give new life or new uses to the interior spaces of this building. Well, the Bank of Spain, this is a very beautiful image by the Spanish painter Carmen Lafon. You should look at her. She died this year, and she's one of the best painters we have. She gave us this interpretation it's her interpretation of the Bank of Spain, because really this building is a building that is transformed in continuity during different times. And in this way, we have worked in this building we have been working with very small and larger interventions in different points, just again, as we were doctors inside the building, but always in continuity. So we really know very well this building. We have studied all the ancient plans, all the ancient drawings of this building, all the history, and we really have found some very interesting aspects that a person that is not architect would have never known. Sometimes the economists and these people that know a lot of money and so inside the bank, they know a lot of money, but they know nothing about architecture. And they were looking sometimes for a space for having new offices. And they didn't realize that the space was just there, just beyond their noses. No, it was there because we read the plans and we knew that those spaces were possible, and they were at that moment they were just used as cellars or just for storing or for climate machines. No, so again, research and study is very important when we are working with the remains of the past. No? In yellow, these are all the different interventions that we have done in the bank in different times. No? One of them was this lobby. This lobby, it's in the corner of the bank, looking to the Cibeles Square. And well, this was just a former storage, and it was completely restored for an exhibition, temporary exhibition room. Now it's where the bank has the exhibitions of artwork in this very beautiful space. It was completely restored in a canonical way, but it was completely transformed again because of the color again, the brightness, the color. Or in this case, these were the former rooftops of the bank that they were in a terrible situation, using only for storage or for the dwellings of the portiers of the bank, and they were no good. And they were looking again for new offices, and we transformed all these rooftops into contemporary offices, such as this one, for a new use. So it's like an architecture inside another architecture that transformed again all the interior space of the rooftops. And moreover, this is one of the, I think it's one of the most interesting transformation we have done in the Bank of Spain, because they needed an elevator for the building, and they didn't know where to place it. So there was an ancient staircase in this place of the bank, and ancient staircases, and we told them to transform this staircase that was no good into a space for the elevators. At first, the person that was in charge of the conservation of the bank said, well, it is not possible because it is old, because it is heritage and so on. And well, then it was possible, because really the staircase was no good. It was old, but it was no good. So we demolished the staircase and we transformed. Here you can see the transformation of the space from the old staircase to the new elevators that transformed the interior space into a place for the two elevators, and moreover to an exhibition space, because that is an artwork that is placed inside this very beautiful vertical space here. You see, that is an artwork by Spanish artist Ignacia Ballí, going around the euro, because it was for some anniversary of the euro, no? And so again, we have this new element. In this case, it's a mechanical element inside the ancient architecture, and also set together with the new artwork, and everyone can go up and down and see the artwork. Or this one, no, this is in the basement, this transformation. This is one of the most important structural work we have done in the bank, because we have transformed the basement that was used only for storage of paper and documents of the bank, and we transformed this space into a nave that was really a very impressive structural work. And when we demolished the inside of this space, we recovered that ceiling. You see there that beautiful ceiling that appeared. It is iron, and it was built for to build a very strong case. And nobody knew it was there, because underneath there was a plaster ceiling, and nobody knew that we had that magnificent ceiling, iron ceiling in this space. So really we recovered this fantastic space for offices, no? Again, we built a very light structure inside the nave, very light structure to have this balcony to gain a little more space for the new offices, no? Again, the color transformed everything, no? Again, the brightness of white transformed this into a very dark cellar that was only used for storage, transformed into a new space that now is completely used by people that work there, and that are using again a space that was completely abandoned and that was no good. So in this case, well, architecture has really the power to give a new life to places that initially were no good. Of course, we have to, again, do the research, a lot of drawings, but now these drawings are much easier with computer, no? But we need to draw everything in order to know where to place all the ancient elements that can be placed again on site, no? In this case, for instance, we recovered also this very beautiful space that was completely divided into two levels. It was divided in two levels, and nobody knew that inside one could gain this fantastic room for meeting rooms, no? So again, all this drawing and the research work. Well, I never thought when I was very young that I were going to do this type of work, but really when we finished, we said that, well, it is something very impressive for an architect to see something new where one never expected to have it, no? In this case, all the air conditioning is hidden behind the woodwork of this room, no? And also the ceiling was discovered because it was hidden in a plaster ceiling that was no good, that was built in the 60s. Or this was one of the last interventions we did, because they were all again looking for a new space, and we thought it could be a good idea to have this new very large skylight on one of the patios, no? At first, well, it was quite difficult to convince the people that dealt with heritage to have this, because this is a very strong structural work inside the existing building. But really, this skylight was also possible, always gaining the confidence of the persons that work with heritage, and now this is like a new window in the patio, no, that gives light to a place where nobody could think that life could develop in this part of the bank, no? And we recuperate again all these columns, granite columns that were really beautiful. Well, it was really like discovering. Well, and all these people that always deal with the money in the bank, they were like amazed, no? Because they could never notice that only by studying the plans of the ancient bank, one could discover those beautiful spaces inside the bank. Well, and then now the two libraries. Well, these libraries are like, well, all the other works I have shown. They come from public competitions. They are public works, not the houses in Oropesa, but all the other works come from public competitions. And well, in this case, this library in Ceuta, there you can see the Iberian Peninsula and where Ceuta is placed in the peak of the North Africa. It's a very, in a very special position in the Gibraltar Strait. And well, in this case, we knew we had this archaeological excavation on the site. But well, this excavation was meant to be underneath the library. This is something that archaeologists love, to have archaeology and all the remains of the past underneath on a cellar, so one can go there and can study. But they can't imagine that we can live together with all the remains of the past. Why not? In the same way we live together with our grandmother or grandfather or an old thing. Not everything has to be new or young. We can live all together. In this case, well, in the competition we proposed to leave this excavation just inside of the library, no? And that's the main idea of this library in Ceuta, to have this excavation inside the library. It's a 14th century city, and well, the reason of this excavation is because of really the geographical situation of Gibraltar Strait. This is this is a beautiful point of southern Europe, in the point in which Europe meets Africa, and well, Mediterranean joins the Atlantic Ocean. It is a place that's really impressive. And well, this excavation, the story of this excavation is something also very special, because as the main archaeologist told us, it was not a Muslim 14th century city. It was the Muslims that have lived in Spain for centuries and centuries, because the Muslims came to Spain in the 7th century, and they lived, well, they lived in Spain for lots of, till 1492, till the 15th century. Well, they didn't live with us. Really, we are part of them. It's just like a continuity, you know. So when they retired from the Iberian Peninsula, they jumped the Gibraltar Strait and they came to Ceuta, and they founded a city that is exactly the same as most of the Spanish city, because they are the same people that lived in Spain. So this is the origin. They are Spaniards, really. They were Spanish, but they were Muslims, and they founded this city, in this very impressive city that is Ceuta. Ceuta now is a Spanish city. I think that it's the most European southern city with very difficult geographical and political situation. But from the geographical point of view and from the historical point of view, it's very impressive. No, the topography is really, beautiful, and the site also. It's one of the columns of Hercules in the Gibraltar Strait. No. And well, there are many myths and stories about Ulysses that stayed in Ceuta for many years because he fell in love with Calypso, that was a nymph. Well, the story is really fantastic. And Ceuta, before it was Spanish, it was Portuguese. So there is also a very strong Portuguese remains in Ceuta. No? Here, this is an image of the city. It's a very compact city. And here we were meant to build the library. Well, and when we arrived to the competition, we had these ruins that we had to keep underneath in a cellar. But at that time, we decided to keep these archaeological remains inside of the library and to give them a new life and to give them really another view. It's just like a different interpretation of the ruins, no? At first, well, the archaeologist was a bit surprised where you're going to live, but that is a bit horrible because there are only ruins, and we want to, we don't need them to have them in presence. We only need them to go there to study, and that, I think that this is the main different idea about historians and archaeologists and architects, because archaeologists love history just to study and to have like just to keep the moment in which the remains were built. To keep that moment, to know how those societies were, or how those people were, how they lived, or what happened years ago. But for us architects, it's much more interesting because it gives us very important clues or tools for the project. In this case, we said, well, it is really a very, it's an opportunity for the project to have all those impressive walls, brick walls inside the library. And moreover, because we knew that the 14th century city, Muslim city, was also orthogonal. As you can see here, all the walls are orthogonal because Muslims, they built, when they built new, they built like the Romans did, with cardus and decumanus, because, well, the north of Africa was Mediterranean. No, we were all the same culture, so they built the same way. And it was very interesting to have this duality between the direction of the Muslim city, that is orthogonal, and the direction of the contemporary city in Ceuta, that is also orthogonal, but is twisted and in a different way. So we thought that this was really a fantastic potential for the library. So we decided to build all the library around the remains and around the excavation of the Muslim city. And well, the library should be designed in a vertical position. That's something very, very not normal for a library, because normally the libraries need to be horizontal because of the movements of the books and so on. But here in Ceuta, we had this very compact city. We had very little space, And we needed to build on top of the remains. So we have 8 levels on top of the remains, and we needed to place all the structure in between the walls. So we had lots of long conversations again with the historical people in charge and the archaeologists, because they were, well, but when you talk and talk, have you seen this beautiful film by Almodóvar that's Talk with Her, Hable con ella, no? This is something important. It's something like Almodóvar. One needs to talk with the archaeologists, because sometimes, well, they don't know anything. They invent a lot. I know they invent quite a lot. So it is important to gain some confidence with these people, no? And then, well, they leave you to place the foundation. In this case, we had these very special deep foundations to support the structure of this space here, that we wanted this space around the excavation of the Muslim city, to incorporate it into the space of the library, no? So the library is displayed vertically in this way, with all the different levels. And then we have this facade that is metal. Now we shall see some images, and that is like the unity of all these different elements. So because we have very different elements, we have a topography with several entrances, because we have an entrance to the archaeological space, another entrance in a lower level for the library. And well, we have all these different features, because we have the library reading, and people that go to have different events related to the library, but people that go to the small museum and to the excavation. All these different elements, a contemporary library together with an ancient excavation. So everything is set up together in this way, with this facade that gives like unity to all the library, in this folded shape, because we also needed to build up a roof for all the machinery for climate conditioning and so on, because as Ceuta is so steep, the roof can be seen from all the different parts of the upper parts of the city. So the roof was also something very important to be paid attention. So all these things were something, made this library something very, very, well, very different, from building new, because there were so many things that needed to be set up together, such as, well, the excavation in this way, because it's something strange to go into a library and have those tons of soil and brick and well, and walls, inside, and well, they were the archaeologist was worried. He said, well, I want to we need to separate. We need to make like a border between the excavation and the new part of the library, because it is something different. Well, we didn't want, in this case, we had to convince him that we just wanted no border. We just wanted the brick go just like an installation inside the library. Why not? Because everything should be set up together, giving this new image and this new unity. It's just like these marbles, Torlonia, I have shown at first. Well, why not? Could we place all these things together and have them in this way? We also placed this very small museum here with the elements that were excavated. Some of them are very beautiful. Muslim pottery from the 14th century and paintings. And this is now the image of this space with the lamps that have these peaks and these directions, because they indicate the direction of the contemporary Ceuta and the ancient Middle Age Ceuta of the streets. As you see, the topography inside the library is really impressive. The inside of this library. Well, and people can go there and can read and can look at it. Well, and can live together with all this space and well, nothing really important happens. So it doesn't need to be a museum. It is just well, different times that are set together side by side. No, this is the slab, the concrete slab that supports with the triangular columns that supports the upper part of the library. That is a modern spaces. With this double facade, you can see that shades the inside and that gives the unity to the inside of the library. It is important, the shade, because in this part of in Ceuta, it is the light is very strong, and also the wind. So we need to filter, we need to shade the inside in this very simple way, and also to have this double facade in order to clean in a simple way or the large windows of the library. No, now the library is really full of life and full of people that use this space. It's one of the meeting space now in Ceuta, with well, again the facade, this metal facade that shades with these perforations that shades the inside of the library, and that gains the solar control towards the inside, well, in a very a simple way of looking at sustainability of the inside of the space. Also, the well, really the great mass of the excavation is fantastic to give freshness also inside the library. No, this is something curious that we have learned after. No, and the director says, well, it is great, because if I give water to the soil, then it is very fresh. It is like well, it is something that gives like new climate to the inside of the library. No, again, the topography that is very steep, and we solved the topography with the concrete basement that was built with soil that came from Ceuta. So the color of the concrete is really the color of Ceuta, because the soil was taken from a quarry in the nearby Ceuta, no? And then the very light metal elements of the facade that gives this very light aspect to the library, no? That shading the inside, but that at night time, well, it is completely different when the interior part is illuminated, and we can see the very large windows with these openings looking towards the viewpoints of the Gibraltar Straits. So, well, again, the inside of the excavation can be seen also from the outside of the library, and on top, on the upper part of the roof, we have these really impressive views towards Europe and towards the Gibraltar Strait. Well, and now to end, this is the library we have just finished. Well, there is something funny, because we did both competitions at the same time. We won the both libraries the same year, many years ago. well, in fact, almost 15 years ago, we won these two competitions, but Ceuta Library was a bit quicker. Well, I couldn't say quicker when I am talking about public architecture in Spain. It's terribly, terribly slow and terribly difficult too. But, well, this library has occupied quite a long time in our office. And now it is finished. It was finished last year, and it shall be open to the public next year. Now everything is finished, but now we are in the process of introducing all the furniture and books and so on, because, well, Córdoba, well, you all know Córdoba is one of the most, I would say it's one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. No, it's a very special place with, and the library in Córdoba is an institution, a former institution that has funds and a lot of old books and a very strong, important collection of books. No, this is well, Córdoba. With the mosque and with the river Guadalquivir, where Córdoba is, it was the capital of the Caliphate in the 10th century of whole Europe. It is an impressive city, and in this place we won the competition here. I don't know here. This is the place where of the library. In this place where we have this park here. And well, the site is really very impressive. Here, this is the park, and the library is placed here. Now we'll see some images, and this is the mosque of the mezquita, the mosque of Córdoba. That's now the cathedral of Córdoba. This is one of the most impressive buildings for an architect. Not only because the beauty and the perfection of the scheme of the building, but also because of the mixture of different architectures. It was started the construction in the 1st century, and it was ended in the 10th century. So over 10 centuries, the mezquita, the mosque, was enlarged and enlarged. But what it is most amazing is that this is the Christian cathedral that is built inside the mosque. This is something that now I think it could be, it's unbelievable, because now I think that no heritage protection rules could permit to build in this way inside an ancient building. And it is something that is something marvelous. No? In this way, you can see all the different extensions of the mosque with this scheme that is organized in naves, with this fantastic open-air patio here, and here the mosque, with all the different extensions from the 1st to the 10th century. And what it is most amazing, the Catholic Christian cathedral built inside the mosque. And it is something that is really very, very impressive. It is a lesson of architecture, how such different architectures can be set up in dialogue, side by side, without any problem, reusing what already exists. Because at first, the former mezquita, the former mosque, reused all the columns of the Roman remains and ruins that were there placed. Well, but going back to the library, this is the place of the plan of Córdoba, with this park here. And here, this is the railway station the old railway station, and the park. And in this case, when we entered the competition, well, we had all the plot to build the library, but we decided to keep the 18th century footpaths here in the park, because this original park had this in this garden with this shape, and we decided to build the library just in this part in order not to change the original layout of the 18th century park. Well, in this case, it wasn't protected. We could, if we wanted, we could just demolish or change the park, not the trees. We had to keep the trees, but we could demolish. But we decided to keep, because they were very beautiful, and we wanted to keep those footpaths and to build the library inside. This is why the library has this very special shape, no, of inside, no. So this is an image of the library in the park, and well, the different image that the library has, looking towards the park here, that has this stepping section to gain a view towards the trees and toward the park, and then this facade that is very neat and giving way to the avenue that covers the rail tracks of the train. Here you can see in the section the train. Now here the high-speed train to Córdoba and to Seville goes here underneath. And here we have this continuity we wanted between the upper part of the avenue and then continuity here with the library towards the park and towards the trees. So the idea of the library is to have in plan the same form as the park, and in section to have this stepping image towards the park. So this is the flat image towards the avenue, again with a metal facade that filters the light, the afternoon light that goes inside the library, and a completely different image towards the park with this very large balcony where the lecture room is placed, that overlooks the trees and that overlooks the parks, because we wanted to gain this continuity between the park and between the trees and the green towards the inside of the library, you know, with no fences, with no walls, and to have this continuity towards the inside of the library. Here in section, we see this continuity with the park here, with these very small steps here for the children area here, and the large lecture room with the balcony here on top. No? So that is the main idea. And also to have a library that is a bit low than the height of the trees, because the trees also have their own height. So, well, we worked also here with local materials. We worked with this very beautiful pavement that is typical from Córdoba, that is built with very small stones and cement. And we used again this vernacular materiality for the pavements of the outside spaces of the library in this way, you know. And again, the display of the library, in this case, it is much simple than in Ceuta, because we have underneath, we have the children area and all the book archive. And on the upper part of the library, we have just one very, very long lecture room. Now we shall see some images. And of course, here we discovered Muslim caliphate wall, because, well, in Cordoba, once you dig, you always find something. Well, we discovered a Roman necropolis, cemetery, and also this caliphate wall. So we had to deal with all these elements also when we were building the library. This is the wall. That is quite an interesting wall. It wasn't for a building. It was built for these party walls that are beside a river, in order to have agriculture in different levels. But it is very beautiful the way the stones are placed. So, well, the archaeologists decided that they wanted to keep again this wall inside the library, and in this case, we incorporated the wall in the children area, in this way. Well, again, the sections of the library, in order to understand the place of the wall, of the library, of the children area, and the large reading room on top of the library, but always controlling the scale and the height of the library regarding the nearby trees. Really, the trees were the protagonists of the library, because, well, inside the library it's quite simple, the architecture. We leave the structure in concrete and only using wood in several parts, and thinking, of course, of the central reading space. We produced these drawings for the Biennale di Venezia, in the last one before the pandemic, the inside spaces of the buildings, in the same way that Luigi Moretti did, and in order to understand better those spaces that in plan maybe they are not very important, but when they gain the height and they gain the space, they gain really the importance, And, well, these are some images now of the library. As I said, it is completely finished with the public staircase that connects the different levels in a very simple way. It's a building that it is quite easy to understand once you are inside and you come inside the library. It's quite easy to know how everything works. But what it was very important for us was to have inside the vision of the library, to have the vision of the trees, in the same way as this book. I love this book. That's El Barone Rampante, of the boy that's reading on the treetops. And we always wanted the lecture room to be something like that. We thought it was the position of the library was very important, and the protagonists really of the library are the trees. So this is the lecture room. Now it's no more like this, because now we have all the bookshelves in different heights, but you can always see the trees, and you can always read looking at the trees, but shaded by the balcony. And another problem that we had with this very long space was how to divide this very long space into smaller spaces that could make a smaller scale of the large nave. In this case, it was really the mosque, the mezquita of Cordoba, that gave us the clue by dividing with very light structures that are not decorative, but that really divide the space. In this way, we divided the space of this very large reading room. It is really large, but it is divided with these very subtle aluminum metal elements that divide the space of the skylights, always permitting the vision of the trees, and that also have this very important absorption, acoustical absorption inside the library. That is very important in a library because we need silence for reading. So these elements are placed inside the large reading room. And also in the way that Muslim architecture produces these veils and this shading with perforated elements in order to filter the light inside the spaces. No, we also worked with this type of elements in order to shade in a very simple way the inside of the library. So again, we worked with these elements, with these perforated elements in a different way than in Ceuta, because in this case, these elements are molded aluminum. They are very heavy, and that also they produce the insulation of the noise of the avenue towards the inside of the library. So we have this double facade with this walkway to clean again all the windows and so on, and to filter the inside of the library, no? So this is the main facade of the library. The lower part is completely transparent, so when you peep to the doors of the library, you can see through the library and you can see all the park and the trees, but the upper part has these perforated elements that really shade the inside of the library in this way. With this very simple walkway and these elements that filter the light inside the library. So, well, this is more or less the way I wanted to explain how we worked with in these buildings with heritage, how we made an interpretation, no, of the architectures of the past, and how I think that past architectures are really absolutely fresh when they come to the minds of an architect nowadays. So they mustn't be kept on the subjects that are old and past. There's really something fresh that can be used in architecture with no problem in this way, performing heritage, because we are really rewriting the past in this way. And maybe after me, you will rewrite the past again in a future way. In this way, I think that architecture, well, always has the tools to be what's more important, to be useful for everybody, no? And moreover, if you're working with public or private architecture, but more or less this is the idea, and I think that you will do it, of course, much better than I will do. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Ángela. No, thanks for your lectures, and grazie, Ángela. I have just a very simple question for you. I don't know if it's so simple, but in your double role as an architect and a professor. Mm-hmm. So the question is, in your opinion, which kind of culture, which kind of knowledge is important to approach for this kind of project? With kind of not ordinary projects. So because there is a relation with the history, there's a lot of things to manage. So in terms of formation, in your opinion, is enough the simple formation of an architect in this kind of you need something more to understand the language of the past, for instance?
Well, well, it is not very, very simple. It is very complex. It is very complex. Well, I think that for understanding this type of work, I think it is important to have time, to have many years, because when one is young and you are just at first you are building or designing at first, you need quite a lot of information. And in the same way, when you are starting to teach, you don't have exactly all the information that you must give to the students. So I think in my case, I needed time to understand that those two aspects are absolutely related. And that is why I think that, well, a professor, it is important to just to give the students the clues, the references, or the ideas, what they need to do their own architecture. I think that this is more important because at first the student really doesn't know because he's a student, he's learning, no? And it is very important to give them the references that they would have never imagined that an old Muslim window can give a very good reference for contemporary architecture. So I think that the task of the professor is to understand what reference needs that student, not me, because they need to do their own project, their own architecture. So in our case, well, we both, Ignacio and me, we are professors, and for us it is very important the references we give, because students nowadays, they only use references of Pinterest, no? And then when I say, well, you can look at these references, it is Abderrahman the First. Oh, what is that? They think it is an old subject. And then they found, when they discover that they can have in the Alhambra of Granada, or they can have in Cordoba, or they can have a very good references, they are really very excited. And well, they must also think that maybe sometimes when Palladio was building, he was even younger than they were. So they are just people that, like us, no? They are people, well, like virtual people, no? But they give you the clue. So references, I think, are very, very good. It's quite difficult to search for references, but I think they are necessary because they give like a new enthusiasm for students. No, not only Pinterest. No, and books are very important also because in internet everything is mixed up. Everything is mixed, and when you see a book, somebody that has studied has everything in order in the preface of the book. So a book is also very important because somebody has done the work for you before. About Pinterest, no?
So, okay, thank you very much, Angela. It was really interesting. I really liked the way you explain and how to work with the fragment of the past. Something was touching me a little bit is that you talked about vernacular architecture, but your project are totally not vernacular. So I think this is something really important as result, because it shows how an architect can work with the past, but to create or imagine a new architecture. So this is really interesting. And also it's interesting to see how it's, I think it's quite difficult to work in that way in Italy. So
Also in Spain, it's very difficult.
so you have to explain us how to do, because I don't know, it's you fight it for this, so your personality maybe.
No, it's also quite difficult because now well, we have also very strong heritage rules. So it is not as easy as well. Each project has a story behind it. No, at first the library in Ceuta was completely different. We didn't have 7 strong columns. We had a lot of many light columns, because at that time we were looking not at Pinterest but at Peter Zumthor in Santa Coloma, no? And then when the project and when we arrived, well, it wasn't possible. So again, we had to change and to change. So really, each project needs a lot of time. And there are many projects that are underneath each building that couldn't be done. So it is not very as easy, no? And now I'm sure not even the best Pritzker architect in the world would be allowed to build inside the mosque in Córdoba, no? But really, I think that sometimes I love those ancient times when architects were more free to work, no? Because I think it is not so important to conservate. It is more important to use in a good way what we have. Sometimes old things are no good, and sometimes very new things are very good. So I think that is the difficult task of working in this way. Well.
So maybe we can say that there is something that does not belong to the shape of architecture, but something different that is in the mind of the architects when they start their project, no? Because now I'm thinking on this idea of shaping the project. What is very difficult with the students is when they arrive with their first ideas, and then it's very difficult to convince them to change the idea, no? Or they have some references in their mind, and then when they have a conversation or a debate with the professor, then it's very difficult to convince them to change something. Instead, for me today, this evening, you also explain us the importance of changing the project, of the evolution of the project, but also in terms not only of transformation, of interpretation, but even of changing roles. And for example, looking at the experience of Ceuta, no? The idea of arriving there, thinking on small pillars, and then changing this idea of the small pillars in something different, no? Because you have the reference of Santa Columba, and then instead you say, no, it's not possible. And with the conversation with the archaeologist and the historian, and also with the meeting with the sites, probably you decide to change completely the structure, the grid of the structure, and to work with another grid, a very informal grid that is supposed to be suggested by the site, the original orientation of the Muslim cities of Ceuta. And so I think that, speaking of that, talking of this kind of process, it is like in the mind of the architect, of you as an architect, there is something that you want to save, that is the idea of the open space, of the fragment, and how to of this juxtaposition of fragment from the antiquity, from the old structure and the new structure of the modern building, no? That do you want to preserve, and this idea of being together, no? So how to put together, and in this sense I would say that there was an idea of the space, of the inner space, but not a very deep idea to maintain the shape of the architecture, but the shape of the void, or how to create the connection between the old and the new. But this is my interpretation of your lecture. Maybe I'm wrong, so this is why I just say these few things. So I don't know if I'm all right, or if there was at the beginning a very strong idea of the shape of architecture. Or
really a project at first. Well, when one is working, it is very important the strategy that one has for the project. No, and with the students, well, they can have several strategies, or and it is important to seek and to help them to work in the best strategy for the project. But then once you have the strategy, in Ceuta, the strategy was to keep inside the library the excavation, and not in an underground cellar. That was the main idea, no? The rest, well, really, the rest, it's the process of the project. No project in the world is clear from the very first day. You need time to transform and transform and transform again. Maybe the day that we couldn't do the columns of Ceuta, maybe that day I was really depressed, maybe, you know, but then you keep on working because the project needs to gain its shape little by little. At first, no project is clear. Everything is not clear. It is clear when everything is completely finished and clean and pulito, no? But at first, nothing is clear. I remember I was in a very beautiful lecture by Álvaro Siza Vieira, and he had some sketches, and he was asked, well, why your sketches are, you know, how he draws like this? Well, it's very simple, because at first my mind, it was just like that. I had really no idea what I was going to do. I need to settle up my mind and to order my mind, and so projects need that. At first, no one has, I think that architecture, that's how you say, we say preconcebida. I think that it's not, architecture needs many inputs, because it's not only the site. it's many things. It's the orientation and the sun and materiality and color and people and so many inputs that arquitectura preconcebida, I don't know how you say in English. I think that, no, because you need all those elements to keep transforming and transforming. So, but I think that, well, for when one is starting a project, then it's like an adventure because, well, you have so many, but really, in this case, I would have never thought when I was at school, at university, that I will work with arches and things like that, you know, because, well, we only studied modern movement, no? And now they are old.
This direction, just. So we finish with these November talks for this year. So just I can say you Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We will. I'm waiting from the students the notes we asked, no, about the 4 November talks, sketches, drawings, or some considerations, some notes, something that for you is relevant after listening these 4 conversations with these 4 talks with so different point of view about different issues, heritage, education in architecture, architecture. So try to find in the notes you will send me your keywords of these November talks, okay? And try to comment these keywords in the way you like, with drawings, sketches, and written part, okay? Thank you very much. See you.
Io ho avuto un gesto isterico, siccome mi sta sulle palle l'ho tolto. Perché? Ti devo chiedere la firma pure qui? Ah, ma la mia... Bellissimo, veramente un sacco. Ma una curiosità, ma questa? Sì, sì, sì.
The notes are in mother language for the Italian and for the Erasmus students that want to credits or the students of the Master in Architecture, of course in English. We can read Italian, English, French and Spanish, not more, please. But I think the date, the last date is written in the website. I think after the, at the beginning of the, yes, but of when you start again the lesson, say 9 of January, 10th. Okay, thank you.
Sì, è sempre lo stesso e quando si disegna una fabbrica che fa dei pezzi per la macchina.
Ma poi ha fatto pure le prove di stabilità? No.
Bueno, abbiamo una substruttura.
Sì, sì. Arrivo. Beh, ne parliamo dopo.
Spero che agli studenti abbia piaciuto.
Il nome lo sa Andrea, in questo momento non mi... La nuova curatrice della Biennale come si chiama? È una donna comunque.